Hi, how's it going? This is Resident Caller YouTube. I have some videos to drop for you today. Um, so I have two read-alongs. Gonna try to nicely talk towards Frankenstein here after bed. But I'm gonna do the read-alongs first. To the Beguile, Book 8, Chapter 4, The Throne Room. The day was late. Evie could see by the glow of the frosted over uh, west-facing window that the sun was dipping back down below. And the only way she could ever find was by a change in the colors of the glass throughout the day. The glass is like frosted over, very illuminated. Light doesn't necessarily come through it; it sort of reflects off of it. Um, to give you a picture of what she's seen. Because I see this in my mind. Sorry, I visualized. No one had come to see her. She was hungry, tired. She hadn't slept. She had seen Gabriel in what felt like forever, but it had only been a little more than 4 days. Yet, to a young, desperate, and frightened mother, that was enough to send her to the brink. Evie paced the room back and forth, past the mound of broken glass from the log she had thrown at Sebastian. He never sent for anyone to clean it up. She worried he'd forgotten about her, but deep down she knew he would never forget. She worried she'd be left there to die. She thought about all the other times she'd been locked away, the asylum, the coffin, the jail cell. Her anger was building into painful memories that she could not shake loose. Evie, Evie stopped dead in her tracks in the room. Her arms fell to her side. She lifted her head and faced the portrait of the mysterious woman staring down at her. She made herself a promise. If I get out of here alive with Gabriel, this will be the last time, I swear to the very last time anyone ever locks me away. I will never be taken again, she thought as her hands balled up in a fist. As Evie continued to think of her past and her future trapped in her current predicament, a key began to jiggle in the lock of her room. She gasped and stood back. The sun was still up, even if it were beginning to fade. It couldn't be Sebastian, not at this hour. She backed away from her stance in the center of the room towards a shadowy corner. She wanted to fight. She wanted to be free, but she realized not now who not know who was it that could kill her, not knowing her opponent. She thought of lying in wait before pouncing. The door slowly creaked open. It was a tall, slender man, his skin tan and caramel in tone, his hair dark and slick. It was beautiful to Evie and so familiar. It was Roman Ashby, but Evie could not yet place how she knew this person. Evie, he whispered. Evie, where are you? The door closed behind him, and Evie, still in the shadow, unseen, reached for the candlestick. Roman walked over to the bed that was covered in shadows. Thinking Evie was asleep, she crept up behind him, candlestick upside down with the heavier base high above her head. Just before she was to bring it down on his head, the candle slipped out and fell to the floor. The noise startling Roman. He quickly turned and grabbed Evie by the wrist. They struggled. She kicked him in the shin. He yanked at her arm, forced throwing them both onto the bed. She got free of his grasp and jumped back off the bed in search of the candlestick. He too went to her, grabbed her by the arm, and yanked her back up so that they were now facing each other. Evie, Evie, stop, it's me, Roman, he shouted as they were face to face. The name froze her solid. Roman, she asked. She knew of only one Roman, the marital younger cousin, the son of her aunt Miranda. They hadn't seen each other since they were much younger, over 10 years, way before Evie left England. I swear to you, it's me. It's really me, he said. Then she realized it was her cousin. She saw him now. Yes, his face was grown, his voice deeper, his body taller. It was him. His body, Evie's body started relaxed, and she jumped, and embracing him and kissing him over and over on the cheeks. She was saved from him, she said finally, allowing it all to click. What are you doing here? How did you get in? It was Nicky, wasn't it? Nicky and my mother. They realized I would never have left home without saying goodbye, and they sent in, you in England. England, is that where I am? Has Sebastian brought us to England? Evie said, her mind spinning in the face of hopeful freedom. Evie, slow down, take a breath, he said. With a grin as he set her on the bed. We have to stay calm now. I need to know where Gabriel is, Roman. I need to find him so we can get out of here. I know you do. But we have to talk about what this place is, Gertrude. She nodded, her mind finally calming. Okay, Sebastian has brought you and your child to Scotland. We're in a village called Goodwood. Now, Evie, this place, this castle, is owned by a very, very old and wealthy family from far away. They've moved here centuries ago, have remained here ever since. Their the Shawls. The village is quiet, not very large. The Shawls sort of rule over it like dukes. It's a powerful dynamic. They give the town money and safety in return, privacy and protection from the outsiders. Sounds familiar, Evie said with a chuckle, thinking that the lords in Rocheport, by the way, has he brought us here. Ironically, Jonathan Benight told him about me in this place. He told Sebastian to come here. He was confused. What did Jonathan have to do with any of it? Roman continued. Johnny and I have known each other for a very long time. We lived in London years ago. Yeah, that's where Genevieve, him and Genevieve, where he and I met, and we remained friends. We bonded in our ties to America and become fast friends. Eventually, I became entangled in something bad. I made mistakes, and I owed a lot of money to people, but the Shawls helped me, and I vowed to be in their service, but I didn't realize exactly what that would mean. When I came to work for them is when they showed me what they really were. I told Jonathan to free I told Jonathan I thought I skipped something. I told Jonathan to free my mind of the guilt for helping them do what they do, and as a good friend would, Jonathan never told a soul until Sebastian. Evie began to realize what Roman was saying. The connection of a secretive group of people who hide in the shadows, lived only in the night, and that Jonathan believed would appear to Sebastian. People of castle, this castle, were the same as Sebastian, vampires, dwellers of places only nightmares could invent. Evie stood up, her mind slowly seeping to a dark place, worrying for her child that she had not seen now somewhere in the gullet of this castle with creatures all around that could hurt him. I need to get my I need you to get me my child, Roman, for love of God. Please, I need to see him and take him from here, she said with tears in her eyes. Roman stood up to console her. He grabbed his cousin's hand, thinking no harm will come to Gabriel. How can you? Uh, He's already in danger of being without me and be with him, she said. Gabriel is much too important for anything bad to happen to him. I promise you, I'm watching it. The mixing with very careful eyes, he said. Eve shook her head confused. The what? Mixing? Roman felt his heart drop. He said too much. The mixing is what the Shaws call the child. They've been told about forever. They've been waiting for a child like Gabriel, who's born of a mortal and a vampire. He's very, very important. We need him to sustain themselves. Roman explained, leaving out a very important secret detail as to not frighten Evie any further. And Sebastian knows this, she wondered. I don't know what he knows exactly, but it will become clear to him soon. No, he said, we can't let anything become clear to him. I don't care this mixing thing, but this is my child. I will not allow anyone to put him into danger. Roman, I have to help him. Please. Um, I am. I promise you, I am. But as you know, I have time today to escape, and even then, there are spies all around to protect the castle. The villagers know who comes and goes from here, and understand what the Bishals need from them. They not let anything leave here without first-hand knowledge that the Bishals had approved it. It's the deal that the villagers has made to protect the castle, and much abundance and fortune will come to the village. They have no right to keep me, she said. Or Gabriel. Sebastian has given them the right, he said. He has brought you all here, and now they've taken you in essence, giving you sanctuary for once. They have taken possession. You are like their property, not guests. That's insane, she said. That's absolutely insane. We are no one's property, Roman, not even you. You have to leave here. Do you understand? We have to get out and go back home. You can come with me. You can be with me and Gabriel and Nikki and my mother. Take me to Gabriel and we'll go, she said. Maybe it's not that simple, not yet. We have to be sure it's safe. None of the spies around the castle and the village will find you out. But trust me, I will free you from front. And Gabriel shouts, realizing that he continued only to speak in terms of freeing her. Roma paused. He knew that the Shawls would not let the mixing go without a fight. But this was his family, his true family, his true blood. If there was going to be a moment in his life where he finally let the past go and began formatting his way back to his true self and face the mistakes he made, head out without the manipulations and his captors and employers that Count Shaw and his daughter Dominique. He had to start somewhere, and Evie and Gabriel may have finally been the linchpin in his own freedom. I promise you, I will not leave this place without. He paused, realizing how he was now going to say the part out loud he feared the most. He was going to betray the Shaw's friend. He asked, reaching for someone secretly praying he'd agree to help both of them. I will help you both, Evie, I promise you. She realized his hands. She released his hands and pulled him into her by the shoulders into the tight hug. He had missed his family, the feeling of closeness and love that had vanquished by the darkness of the Dachauls. They had given Roman his freedom from monetary debt, but had placed him in their own debt for years and years. And only now could the young man finally see his exit. It would be a danger. It would be a dangerous escape, but Roman would soon plan it. We'll have to be careful, and it won't be soon. Just be patient. I have a plan in the coming days when the rest of those that live here are together on that night. Is when we make our escape, he said. Evie nodded her head. I love you. I am glad to see you, he said to her cousin. He smiled, tears welling in his eyes, and they hugged. See, again, not realizing the sun had gone down almost 20 minutes after their conversation had begun. While this happened, the two cousins had no idea they were no longer alone in the room. A small shadow of a person had entered the room through a secret passage. Only it knew of it. It had been watching, it had been listening, had been careful to not reveal itself, not yet anyway. When Roman left Phoebe, locked in her room, realizing that night had come, a small shadow person, much bigger than 10-year-old child, also left with the information of what it had overheard. Even now, truly alone in her room, waited for Sebastian to return. He needed to play the part of someone now coming to terms with her imprisonment. She had to remain calm. She had to do this to keep herself and her child safe and alive. The time was of the essence. Night soon fell across the rocky Scottish shoreline that rocked in the village of Goodwick Homes, in the village below the castle, lit their front window. Anyone single candle that would last the whole night through, a sign of elegance that also called saints that watched over them, who slept all day from all night. Inside Peniche, coffin lids creaked open, and pale, gaunt figures dressed in fine robes and coats of silks and velvet emerged. Their faces soon plumped to normal human-like form as they levitated from their sleep. It was as if the oxygen in their quarters reinflated their whole body to what it was before. They were creatures of the night, the clever guys to trick of mortals, all of them, all around them. They were hungry, of course, and this being their time to feed, continued together from many rooms down to a giant ballroom of 5 glittering chandeliers, tables set as if they were a great king's banquet, a group of villagers in tuxedos playing music, a dance floor shimmering and reflecting every bit of candlelight. The room was sparkling, and this was routine. This happened every night. Dusk meant time for a ball, and they awaited their regent Dominic, who acted on behalf of her ill father, the Count Alexander. For her part, Dominique was always fashionably late to the nightly ball. She sat in her room, dabbing her lips with a crimson tone, her eyelids she shaded with a light brown tone that brought out the amber of her irises. She slipped on several golden rings that had stones of various dark shades, and then placed her customary lace veil over her face. Almost no one knew looked what she really looked like under the veil. A very small select number of courtiers were proud privy to Dominic's face. She would only reveal herself to those she trusted, those she seemed worthy, and those she knew who would never attempt to take her life. As Dominic stood up to leave her room, there was a knock on her door. She turned, not expecting anyone to see her. Roman, her trusted mortal guide, almost met her at the bottom of her private staircase. Enter, she said trustingly. It was in face a nervous Roman. Roman, what is it? She asked. Roman stepped aside, and Sebastian Lord entered. Man, Mr. Sebastian Lord. Dominique let out a low gasp of air. She had no idea he was so handsome. He almost looked normal, not like her, not like the rest of them. There was something about his face, his skin, it was different, more lifelike. She stared at him as he bowed his head and reached for her hand to kiss the back of it. Her skin, his lips colder, and that he'd realized it could be. Sebastian was somewhat new to the world he now belonged in. Not 4 years had it happened to him, still contained a bit of his humanity. It would seem to Dominique's surprise. She had been in her present state for over a century. Most of the followers there at Second too were long in their vampirism. Sebastian's freshness gave her a jolt she had not felt in what seemed like several lifetimes. It's a pleasure, Mr. Lord, she said softly. All mine, your grace, he replied. Please, would you accompany me to the ball? She asked. The ball, he replied, still unfamiliar with the nightly custom, his first since arriving days ago. Every night when we wake, we join together in a meal, soft, sort of like family gathering before we all set off on whatever it is we need for the night. It's where we celebrate my family and all that he's done and hope for his healing, which I hope comes soon, she replied. Yes, Roman here has mentioned to me how ill the Count is. I hope that my family's addition to your group has not caused an unneeded stress to your family situation, Sebastian said. Not at all, she countered, quickly looping her arm in his and walking him to the corridor and the red carpet staircase that led down to the ballroom. I understand how that may seem, but I assure you and your son are very welcome. I have also brought my son's mother, Sebastian said, noting Dominique did not mention her. They descended the stairs slowly, Roman behind, listening carefully, plotting the escape behind her back. Literally, how could I forget? Yes, Miss Angeline, Dominique said, personally mispronouncing Evie's name. Evangeline, Roman corrected. Dominic stopped cold on the stairs and turned around. She still wondered what he was holding back. Of course, she could hold. She said coldly, Evangeline. Um, they resumed their descent in the main hall. The room filled with glass figures on the walls, portraits of the Shaw family members for centuries. Behind them, candelabras of iron crowned with thick white candles that the villagers replaced every single night so that each night new ones were lit every night. The three entered the ballroom to the whoop sound of an audience, pushing back their seats and standing for Dominic entered on Sebastian's arm. Whispers filled the room. This was the first time they had all seen Sebastian. Some had seen him from afar, some had only heard of him, but now he was one of them. Dominique and Sebastian walked down a center aisle that split the room into two parts. The floor was smooth limestone that looked like brown ice, and it led to a bordered wooden dance floor and a small stage that had two golden sets on it. It was a queen was entering her throne room ready to take on the grievances of her public. A large red banner draped behind the two soft chairs held the emblem of the Dashal family, two black dragons tangled in thorns that had three large black dahlias at the bottom center of the dragons held a shield broken into four parts. The top left three litter shields in black at the top, a crown. The bottom left a heart with a nail through it, and the bottom right another dragon. Dominic sat in one of the chairs, the other, her father's, remained empty. Please enjoy, carry on, she said, with her arm in the air. Then several villagers came out of their night with the night's feast, endless goblets of blood, seated among the many inhabitants, cycling each castle where the fraternal twins, Synod and even Sherman. Synod was the elder twin of the only 3 minutes, had large chestnut eyes, golden specks, her full lips all looked perfectly pouted, her hair tied back in tight bun was pure custom, and her ears always crowned with elegant drop earrings of pearls to gold to match the strands around her neck. She was the picture of a princess that suffered something vicious over 90 years early that made her who she was. So she and her did this to her own twin brother, Evan Sherman, a large man, handsome, fierce, thick in the chest with large hands and big legs, never had enough of his goblets. He could drown himself in the blood several, and it would never be enough. His eyes were large, like his sister's, but darker, softer around the edges of his small, wider, and warmer. He was once a man. Dominic feted a man who saw him as her suitor. Like many things in Dominic's life, she tired of him. He never forgot that. He never forgave that. Synod seemed entranced by Sebastian, who was searching for a seat. He was the newest addition, a world away from his old life. In his heart, he hurt helping for keeping Evie locked away, but he continued to tell himself this was the best for them all, a safe place among those like him. Here, a voice said to Sebastian when he turned. There was a boy of only 12 or 13. It was Jean Mark. Open? You can sit here. Sebastian smiled and walked over to the boy's table in the chair facing the twins, to Snid's delight. Jean Mark was Dominic's favorite. She found him years ago, small baby of Paris, just learning to walk and roaming the streets like a hungry wolf. No one at the table knew how Jean Mark became the child vampire he was. Everyone that is his adopted mother, Dominique, but she never revealed the truth. Everyone second she knew the code, never asked. She'll never tell, especially because there was a code children were off limits. No one dared create a child into what they were. Jean Mark was one of a kind. How are you finding this lineage, Mr. Lord? Synod asked, sipping her goblet. Dark, Sebastian joked, but welcome. It'll only get darker, Synod giggled. It's Scotland, after all. It's our home, Evan replied, sharply feeling a sense of sudden rivalry with Sebastian as he walked in on Dominique's terms. And your wife, has she decided to join us too? Sebastian, Evie is not like us, he said. She has her own life path. And his eyes wide more than they naturally were. She had no idea there was a mortal among them. Evan, too, his heart raced. The feeling of a fresh human blood seemed suddenly to excite him. The blood they drank every night. The balls were from the many cattle and livestock the villagers provided. They only had human blood every full moon to mark the hope coming of the mixing. Does she know? Synod said, referring to the often secretive life of vampires. She does, Sebastian replied, as a goblet was placed in front of him. He sipped. What about your son? Jean Mark suddenly said, to the surprise of the table. No one was to speak of the mixing unless Dominic did first. The child, of course, knew no rules he did not want to break. Um, Jean Mark Simmons said, you know, not to be so nosy. The boy frowned and played with his white linen napkin, twisting it around his finger in several knots. It's all right, Sebastian replied. Gabriel is doing fine. I've done my best to keep him happy, and Roman has also been a great help. Yes, Roman is a wonder to us all, Sinead replied to Sebastian as she looked over at Roman, who was standing with his arms behind him at Dominic's side. Roman, Dominic said softly from under her veil. Come here. Roman nodded and stepped up where Dominic was seated as a woman from the village handed her a goblet. She carefully lifted in front of her veil to drink. Roman composed. Yes, he asked. What is it? She wondered. Ma'am, something is different with you. I've noticed how distant you are since the mixing arrived, and I'm beginning to worry for you. She said. Distant? No, I've been at your service as usual, Roman protested. Not physically, she said. You've blocked me, she replied. He knew what she meant. He knew that anyone around her was obligated to allow her always to be in their minds. It was the way of second. No one, not a single person there, mortal of vampire, was allowed to mentally block the proverbial crown princess. Psyche, she had lost control while Count Alexander was considered ill from health, trapped, caught in a web he did not know he was in. In truth, Roman did not know he had blocked her mentally. It was a natural event, but his psyche created itself to help him process what to do next. Breathing Gabriel, an idea he did it on purpose, was dangerous. And if it were to seem her was going to the fort, anything done for the sake of Alexander's life, if there being death for him leaving. Not at all. It must be the excitement of the mixing arrival, or perhaps tiredness. It's been a very long week, I assure you. I have not done it on purpose, he replied truthfully. Dominique lifted her chin so that their eyes met. She still could not enter his mind telepathically, and touching it would cause a great rumble in the room. Vampires only touch mortals to enter their minds. It could have been a sign of distrust from her part. Sleep, she said to him. I need you to sleep. We'll find someone to watch of the mixing in the day. she said, believing Roman's mind block was due to the exhausted brain. Yes, ma'am, I'll have one of the villager stay. With that, Dominic stood up and the room fell silent. She handed Roman over her goblet, which he took, and then he went back down to the 3 steps from the stage, and Dominic moved from the 2 thrones over to the edge of the stage to address her followers. My dear friends, thank you for joining us once again on this night. The ballroom is filled with an energy I have not felt in my veins in over a century, she said, glancing over at Sebastian through her veil. I suspect you feel it too, the crowd murmured agreement. We have come to a great place in our history. The hope of my father's revelation could be days away of it. With my hope and heartfelt love is that all you will join me in the celebration. I raise this glass in his name. May the future come swiftly, for his return to the room with us sorely missed. Uh, the, the crowd lifted their glass, blood and cheered. Hear, hear. Sebastian felt something in his body, something he too had not felt in a long time. It was that Dominic was talking about the energy of the room. It was in him. It was a part of him. Now it actually was him. He was making this energy. It was fresh, new life. So to speak that was bringing on the hope of the future. And yet, he was not. Sebastian foolishly had yet to realize his own child was that they were talking about and hoping for and expecting. The mixing the blood of his child he loved was to be only to bring back the dying vampire to save him from death. Let us join now in thanksgiving, for the new day is coming. Dominic said. The room stood. Sebastian, unsure what to do, stood as well. Every table walked in, thrown up smirked and grabbed Sebastian's hand. Out. Close your eyes. Stay in the room again. This ritual of the village servants quickly scattered back into the rooms outside of the ballroom, all except Roman. A flash of lightning lit the 6 long, slender windows of the room. Dominic began to levitate above the stage. All the others soon did too. They hissed, shaking their fangs. They laughed gleefully, wickedly. There was a heat in the air of the room. A mysterious origin only came from nowhere. Blowing through the room, chanting began. The fireplace at the back of the room burned hotter. The windows flew open, allowing the cold air to swirl around. Chanting called for the sun to never rise again, for the world to be theirs, for the lives to last forever without resistance from the other outside world, for the continued leadership of Count Alexander de Shaw, for the continued guidance of his daughter, the veiled Dominique, and for the power of the Nixon's blood to light their world higher in power and prestige. With Alexander's recovery, the mysterious wind blew strongly. Herman's eyes watered, knowing his own family now was at the mercy of this feverish, bloodthirsty cult. Dominic would stop at nothing now. The power of the mix in the room calmed. Sebastian's felt an immense power in him, something he had never felt before in his life. He felt invincible and strong. Come, Dominic, said to Sebastian. He went to her on the stage, and she slowly came back down to the ground. He is the reason, she shouted common, to the common room. Sebastian Lord is reason for our celebration. The fruit of his being shall forever bring us life. Thunder clapped again, and the room cheered their new favorite. Even Evan's eyebrow raised, since he was not impressed with the American vampire. Not that he stayed quiet while his older twin sister Simmons squealed with delight at the handsome Sebastian newfound fame. You see, this is the place you belong, Dominic said to Sebastian. This is your home now, too. Sebastian replied. We could be close, Sebastian. We can make things work magically. Ladies together, Dominic said as her hands rested on his shoulders. He looked into the veil that covered Dominic's face to find some sort of softness in her. He lifted the veil, sensing the search of her face to show him a woman that seemed to be in her early 50s, but in reality much older. She smiled almost shyly, but all of this was clever plot to bring Sebastian into her whole, her bewitching gaze deepened. She stood on her tiptoes and closed her eyes. He felt a strange pull toward her. He did not do. There was a warmish in his stomach, nerves, erotic lust for a woman just met, but the kiss, so destined by God, may not come. I should go back, Sebastian said nervously. Dominic opened her eyes, disappointed but not defeated. Of course, she said, moving aside for him to go back into the audience. As Dominic sat back down on the throne, Sebastian mingled with the other members of his scene. Goodwood Senate walked over in a flurry of happiness to the throne and approached. May I? She asked him then to below the steps leading to the stage. Seemed annoyed Dominic allowed her to come up. I just have to say this is some the most excited I've been in a very long time, Dominic. Must be ecstatic. Senate gushed. What will we do with him? She added, turning to look out at Sebastian distance. Well, Dominic asked, with an arched brow. What is this we? Since Dominic's sudden mood change after the ritual of the blood, where everyone seemed to explore, rejoice, and a dip to a small curtsy. I only mean us as a whole, of course. Dominic stood up and walked over to Cinema, who was still down on curtsy. She put her hands under Cinema's chin and lifted her face up so that their eyes met. She could sense the eagerness of the younger, more beautiful vampire adventuress, almost like a bee searching for more flowers to pollinate. This touch was not the look of a rival in the eye. Was to look certain, was not just to look a rival in the eye. Dominic's skin touching another could see into their mind, see into their soul. They had more see into the every desire. Synod hunger for the affection. The Charles dynasty wanted this attention, wanted to somehow be more like the court than just another thirsty face. She wanted Sebastian and all the glory that or said with a stern voice. I'll handle it through this court the way it's supposed to be handled. My father's health returns. Clear? Yes, of course, Senate replied, did not mean to offend. Evan watched this interaction. His own history of Dominique, his sort of affair gone wrong. She was the one that made him, and he made Senate Chinrak violence mixed with lust and love. But no one ever dreamed of he wanted to intervene. He wanted Dominique's hand off his sister's face, but he knew his place. He sat back and watched the vampire queen rule from her throne with her sickly touch. Dominique narrowed her eyes and released her hand from the beautiful face of Senate. He never to forget when the Nixon be ready, Senate answered. 4 days' time to perform a ritual after the first sickle moon comes. Then I await great patience, and said as she left the small stage and headed back into the audience. What was that? Evan asked her, grabbing his twin by the arm as she passed him. I've warned you, get to place, and it yanked her arm out of his grasp. Wait too long for our time to rise. I work at it every day. Just you wait, by the end of 4 days' time, you and I will be sitting on that throne. In another room, far away from the ballroom, a mystical man sat at Count de Charles' bedside. They called him Armand, and he too was one of the saints of Goodwood, but with extra powers that would lead to the mixing life form entering the house. Armand's powers were strong, supernatural. His beard white, snow, kept at the top of the bedsheets. Alexander slept in as he checked on the dining fire. He breathed. Armand said softly to himself in time. Then said, Patty, the bony shoulder of his skeleton, the blood of an infant. As Armand sat back down and rested his tired eyes, he saw something behind a ship, sea, and a coming threat to everyone in the castle. While the so-called saints of Goodwood revealed in their newfound hope, and Armand sensed an impending doom, the ship that carried his prediction charged from along the raging ocean toward the British Isles. The ship carried the sleeping winter-born siblings Matthew and Howard. The waves bashed up against the hull, cutting through the water like comfort into space. Arnold knew this. He saw this. He felt it. The man with so many powers, so steeped into the dark world, sat in the room next to the dying. And although his vampire sorcerer did not know who or what was aboard the ship headed to Scotland, he knew in his bones that he needed to stop its reach. Sleeping in the small cots, Matthew and Hope suddenly felt a large jolt so strong. Hope fell out of her cot and boat. She gasped as the ships violently lifted in the sea and crashed back down to the surface. Matthew awoke and his sister, who was sliding back toward the wall of their tiny room. What's happening? She said. Matthew reached into her, lifting her just as in time as the porthole burst open and seawater gushed in, crashing, pushing everything to the wall. They were drowning in their own room, thanks to the powers of Armand. Matthew was able to unlock their door and open it. He yanked Hope's hand, put her down the small corridor to the belly of the ship. The water followed. It was their ankles, then their knees, then their waist. The two got to the staircase. They had a locked gate that led up to another staircase, then up to the deck of the ship. "Where is everyone?" Hope said in a panic, voice clear as a bell. Matthew did not answer. He grabbed hold of the bars and tried to slide them apart. Could get through and up to the deck before the ship filled water. "Are we sinking?" "We're sinking," she said. Matthew again did not answer. He pulled, yanked on the bars, and they were thin and linked together like an accordion, pulled, and finally they parted enough for Matthew and Hope to step through sideways. "Hurry," Matthew said quickly, jumping through and delivering his hand to his sister. He was frozen with fear and finally walked back to where their open bedroom was and water rushing like a waterfall. "Oh," Matthew shouted, "hurry." His voice snapped her out of fear, and she took his hand and squeezed through the small opening he made. With his strength, the two quickly ran up to the small wooden staircase. The waterway there closed down. As the two turned to the corner to go up to the last staircase, water suddenly gushed down on them, pushing them back to the bottom of the staircase. They got up, completely overwhelmed by the water from the top. Matthew grabbed hold of his sister and yanked her up again. They ran as fast as they could back up the staircase to the surface. They went as far as they could through what seemed like a torrential downpour of rain and water from the sea. There was water everywhere, and controlled the sea and air with powers unprecedented to anyone ever before him. Attempting to sink the ship, Matthew Hope was on suddenly a giant, raised itself high into the sky, and fell down on the ship, sinking deep into the ocean. Down, down, down. The ship was spinning in circles. It was rolling through the rain. Matthew and Hope went along with it into the dark blue sea of the North Atlantic. And then a miracle. Matthew woke up, sweating, gasping for air, searching for light, choking on what he thought was the sea, believing he and his sister were dead. But he was safe in his cot, his sister next to him, grabbing at him to wake up. "Matthew, my God, we were having a nightmare," she said. Matthew swallowed hard. "Something doesn't want us to in Scotland," he said. "But I think that they know we're coming. I think they sense us. They were warning me," said Lord. Matthew didn't see a face that could tell him exactly who was trying to persuade him from coming, but he knew in his gut that this nightmare, the nightmare of drowning, was a clear use of Matthew's own memory. Sin. Matthew almost drowned close to 2 years ago when his fishing ship sank 50 miles west from where he was now. "I'm afraid, Matthew," Hope said. "I want to help you, but this is frightening. Powers you sense just now in your own dream, something I don't think our people have ever encountered." Matthew agreed, but it's too late. We're almost there, and I can't turn back. Evie and Gabriel's lives are in danger. How can I then? Then we'll have to move as carefully as possible. Now they've sensed us. As a result, we have to use our own knowledge of these dark evils and be sure that they cannot enter our minds like this. Ever again, when we sleep, we are grown up, just like my place, and I stood up from her perch next to her brother's cot. Left that to me, and she as she went over to the porthole and carefully unlatched the golden lock around the glass. She swung, she swung it open. There from the sea entered the circle window, spray from the ocean, sprinkled on Hope's perfect beach-shaped face, closed her eyes. Far off lightning flashed, and for a split second she shone in Matthew's eyes, simply curvy silhouette of herself. She said nothing, but raised her arms that they were almost touching the tiny room's wall. She hummed a song, something Matthew had never heard, and watched through the porthole as the dark night sky, filled with purple clouds, began to shape in the shape of a fox. They swirled together and suddenly split in the sky in two and vanished into the night air above them, invisible to the eyes. Then the clouds swirled around Castle Cycling in a bright light. Lightning shook the castle walls, awakening Alexander from his death like sleep. Gasping for air, screaming into the light, brightening even dark heart like Armagh himself. The dark count began to throw up blood, flooding the bed, staining the bed sheets. Armagh quickly got up, helped his master, and while maids came to his help as well. Armagh soon realized these were no regular foes he was about to meet. They would be formidable adversary powers that could possibly match his own. Very, very good. Very, very good. Because you have a lot of magical powers going on. Kind of need that to go against the vampires because you're also going to face a whole village of wolves. But you also have this other thing going on where you sort of have a civil war of the vampires brewing. More of a control for power than a little war who's on whose side. Which has really been interesting. Link to Benight and Beguile will be in the description box. Go check it out if you haven't already.